And welcome back to the Mustard Show.
Now, ahead of Holocaust Memorial Day, our next guest this evening looks at 4 Norfolk women who, in very different ways, had direct experiences of the terrible events 75 years ago.
And the gripping upcoming talk about the resilience of Norfolk people during World War II will be led by Frank Meeres, who joins us now. Hello to you. 4 very special women who were involved in this for very special and different reasons, weren't they? How did you come across them?
I came across them really for doing research originally into the Second World War. I wrote a book about that some years ago, and this gave me insights into the amazing range of activities of Norfolk women were up to during the time of the Second World War, including several who were actually in Europe at the time and found themselves very much caught up in the Holocaust.
Absolutely. And you're an archivist at the Record Centre here in Norwich, and you give out your talks. So this time you've picked a particular theme, and it's Holocaust, which is obviously the memorial coming up in the end of this month. So this is why you selected these 4 women, of course, Norfolk women as well. Just tell us a little bit about each one of them. The first one, Elsie.
Yes. So this is Elsie Marischal, is her married name. She was brought up in Yarmouth and went to a teacher's training school, college in Norwich, which gives its name to College Road. So she was at college there, training to be a teacher. So she was in Norfolk for, say, the first 20 years of her life, and it's then that she goes abroad because she gets a teaching job in London. This is during the First World War. She meets a Belgian soldier down there, and they emigrate to his country. So she's living in Brussels at the time of the Second World War.
And while they were there, the couple then became involved in helping Allied soldiers.
Yes, and of course this will make Norfolk people think of Edith Cavell, who's doing very similar activities in the First World War. So George and Elsie Marischal and their daughter, their teenage daughter, also called Elsie, were risking their lives. They knew that they would be in great danger if they were caught of being shot.
And they kept great records as well, pictures and wrote a lot and sketches, is that right?
Elsie was very much a drawer, Elsie Senior. She drew a lovely picture of her daughter in prison. Her daughter was then, I think, about 15, 16, but she looks rather younger in that sketch. And she wrote, and those sketches were published in a book of poems that another survivor of the camps wrote after the war. And Elsie contributed her drawings to that.
And they were actually caught, weren't they? And although, well, he was shot, but they were the women were sent to a concentration camp.
Yeah, so George was shot straight away. The 2 Elsies went into a prison camp system and were pushed from place to place in Brussels, in Belgium generally, and then in Germany. And amongst the places they found themselves were Ravensbrück, which is a concentration camp specifically for women just outside Berlin, and eventually in Mauthausen, which is a concentration camp just by the Rhine in Austria.
Yeah, but they both survived.
They were both survivors. Yeah. And what is brilliant about that is that Elsie left an account of her experiences, so she acts as a real witness to what was going on in Germany at that time.
What an extraordinary time. And there were 2 sisters now, who the Holdenstein sisters.
Yes, so the Holdensteins were a well-known family in late Victorian, early 20th century Norwich. They were shoemakers. They had a huge, great shoe factory on Queen Street. Some quite large chunk of it still survives, but it was one of the largest employers in Norfolk. Very wealthy family. 2 of the daughters grew up to marry Dutch members of a Dutch Jewish community and emigrated with their husbands.
And we have a picture there of one of the sisters,
Joyce,
and that's Joyce.
Joyce, the younger sister.
Yes. So these actually managed to escape. Is this correct?
That is not entirely correct. So of the 2 sisters, the elder and her husband were unfortunately gassed at Sobibor in 1943, and their son was at Auschwitz. In fact, so he was actually gassed at Auschwitz the following year. But Joyce, she made a most amazing escape. And again, I've seen her letters, her very moving letters, describing what the situation was like in the Holland, in the Netherlands, where conditions were getting worse and worse for Jews. She was thrown out of her house, for example. She was not allowed to speak to non-Jewish people. She was not allowed to talk to non-Jewish people. She's not allowed to ride a bicycle, drive a car, all kinds of things. You get similar stories in Anne Frank, but here's a real Norfolk person caught up in this.
So who would have actually given you these details, or the Record Office? How would they have come to the Record Office?
These letters, actually, in Joyce's case, she wrote to her family And they go on to describe how adventurous she actually made an amazing escape. She managed to get away from Holland. She just left her house with no luggage, no papers. She couldn't take her papers because they were marked Jew. And she went through this kind of chain of people who were supportive of Jews, who would put her up in sheds, one case in a monastery and things like this.
Very brave.
And she gradually made her way all the way to Switzerland and escaped.
Amazing, is it? Just very quickly, because sadly we're running out of time, but finally Elsie Tilney, very quickly about her story.
Yes, Elsie Tilney is in one sense the most well known of these because she's recognised officially by Israel as a rescuer. What she did was she actually kept a Jew hidden she was in an internment camp, and she kept a Jew hidden in her bathroom for 16 weeks and saved his life.
Just incredible.
She was honoured, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, it's fantastic. But your talk is on Thursday the 28th of January at 1 p.m. And it's at the Records Office. So if people want to go along and listen to it, it'll be a fascinating story, I'm sure.
Yes, everybody is most welcome.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, once a year at Banham Zoo, the zookeepers have the mammoth task of counting every single animal on their grounds, but not mammoths.
Now, in what effectively is a stock take of the zoo, it might sound easy when counting elephants.
Or mammoths.
Or mammoths.
Yeah.
But imagine counting over 1,000 cockroaches.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's have a look.
If I could talk to the animals, just imagine it, chatting with a chimpanzee. Imagine talking to a tiger, chatting with a cheetah. What a neat achievement it would be if we could talk to the animals.
1, 2, miss a few, 99, 100. No, apparently that does not suffice when it comes to Banham Zoo's annual animal count, where all creatures great and small are tallied up. There are over 200 species here at Banham that have to be counted, collated and catalogued. It's a tall order, but someone's got to do it.
It depends on the species, but it's quite a big job. I mean, every single animal in the whole zoo needs to be counted. When you're doing something like, for instance, the camels, that's not so difficult because we know how many we've got and they're a very big animal. But when you're doing things like Madagascan hissing cockroaches, it's very, very difficult. So we'll do it as a census count at the end of the year. There'll be different counts as the year goes on, but 3 weeks after that count's been done, you can't actually tell how many babies have been born, that sort of thing. So it's quite a big job.
In what is effectively a stock take of all the living animals, it does have a broader purpose of serving animal conservation.
The information gets shared globally across zoos. Also, there are coordinators that manage certain species. So by being able to give them numbers of how many are in our zoo, then it enables them to run their captive breeding programs and make sure that the populations within zoos are healthy.
It's a really good opportunity for us to check that all the data that we've got on our animals is correct. Sometimes you have animals born, and obviously when they're born we don't want to interfere, they're left with mum and dad and are reared naturally. But there comes a point, particularly with breeding programs, where we need to know the sex of those animals. So it might be at that point in time, and particularly this time of year, the stud book keepers are contacting zoos to find out what was born last year. They need to know what the sexes are because they then make up the new pairs that go off to other zoos. And these are all part of the breeding programs that go on throughout all European zoos, all year long.
And the plan is to get all of this totted up by the end of January. So I suppose I'd better get a move on. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Job for you, that one, Helen. Counting cockroaches.
Yeah, well, it could be more interesting than working with you. But anyway, there you are. Now, some of our viewers may remember the distinctive, powerful voice and emotional ballads of rockabilly musician Roy Orbison.
Well, for our final guest of the evening has been voted the #1 Roy Orbison tribute act in the UK, and will be performing for us at the end of the show. And joining us now is Danny Reno and his promoter, Andy Sexton. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. The first of Roy Orbison, I think. Would many of the generation nowadays remember Roy Orbison? But there's some real classic songs of it.
There is some very classic songs in there. Every age of everybody loves Pretty Woman. Wherever we play that, the dance floor is pretty much full.
They all seem to know it, don't
yes,
they?
Only the Loneliest.
Yes,
another one that all ages know.
Yes.
So,
and Andy, you're actually promoting this.
Yes,
it's going to be on in a couple of venues. And why Roy Orbison?
Well, Danny came to me a few months ago and said, Andy, I need someone to do some promotions for me. What do you have in mind, Danny? Roy Orbison. I said, well, let's hear it then. Oh, my God.
Is he really good? Oh, we'll find out at the end of the show. But what's the interest in Roy Orbison then? Because if you don't mind, you seem quite a young man. I mean, it's a very different generation.
Yeah, I've been brought up on rock, all types of rock and roll. Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran, Roy Orbison in there also, and his ballads and his voice range is just superb. And I was like, oh, what a sing like that, what a sing like that.
Can you play the guitar as well?
I can indeed, yeah. I play it, yeah.
You thought you just had it there as a
I thought it was
prop.
a prop. Trying to catch him out.
On band.
And as you've sort of done Roy Orbison, do you think you've grown more like him, if you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
In what way?
When I sing like him, people say, "Oh, you don't look like you're moving your mouth at all," and that's like just taking him off. Yeah, it's really, really.
Do you kind of live the life now? I mean, do you dress like this in every day?
No,
or would you,
no, this is Andy's fault.
But you have to look the part as well.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Do you have a day job?
Yes, I do property maintenance.
Property maintenance?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. Well, so you practice while you're going
whistling
around,
along,
clearing out the drains and things.
That's right,
Yes. Well, there you are. Yeah. Well, we're going to hear you. What are you going to be playing for us?
Running Scared. I'd like to do a rendition of Running Scared for you.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So how are you #1 at Roy Orbison? Who voted for that?
Just basically the fans. Wherever I seem to be going now on the flyers, they're putting it on there. The venues are putting on UK's #1 Roy Orbison, so everybody wants to book it.
Self-proclaimed #1 Roy Orbison tribute act.
You can't argue with the fans.
I'm sure it will be. Okay, lovely. Well, I'm sure they're going to go well. Thank you very much indeed.
And if you want to see Danny live, you can at the Talk on the 5th of February.
And that brings us to the end of today's Mustard Show.
We'll be back again the same time tomorrow. Ellen Mary will be joining us with some crafty ways to entice birds into your garden.
And playing us out of the show today is Danny Reno.
Enjoy, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Just running scared. Each place we go, so afraid that he might show. We're running scared. What would I do if he came back and wanted you? Just running scared, feeling low, running scared. You love him so. We're running scared, afraid to lose. If he came back, which one would you choose? Then all at once he was standing there, so sure of himself, his head